Hey, how's it going, everyone? Drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from, because today we've got a story that's going to hit you right in the feels. I want you to watch closely because you won't believe how this one unfolds. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. The sun was setting, casting a dull orange hue over the bustling city streets. Among the busy crowd, a blind old man, hunched over, sat on the cold pavement with a weathered cap in front of him. His hands trembled as he stretched them out, silently begging for spare change. His clothes were torn, and his face was lined with years of hardship. But there was a certain dignity in his stillness, a calm acceptance of his fate. He had become invisible to the world, just another face in the crowd, ignored by most as they hurried past. But on this day, something was different. A young cop walking down the street on routine patrol noticed the old man. There was something about the way the old man held himself, so quiet, yet so powerful in his stillness, that caught the cop's attention. He hesitated, sensing something deeper, something that the world had overlooked. With a heavy sigh, he approached the blind man, not to reprimand him, but to check his identification. What he found next would change everything. As the cop looked at the ID, the name written there shook him to his core. He blinked, unsure of what he was reading. It was then that the old man raised his hand slowly and saluted the cop in utter silence, a gesture that spoke louder than any words ever could. The officer, taken aback, felt a chill run down his spine. Who was this man, and what was the story behind this simple, silent salute? The cop could feel the weight of history and honor behind that one act, and suddenly, the old man wasn't just a beggar. He was a mystery waiting to be unraveled. What had this man been through? Why was he here, begging on the streets when he clearly carried a legacy of something far greater? As the young cop continues to look down at the old man, the silent salute lingers in the air like an unspoken plea. His heart aches as he takes in the frailty of the figure before him. This once strong, proud man, reduced to begging for survival on the cold, unforgiving streets. The old man's blindness is not just a physical ailment. It is the visible manifestation of a life lost in the shadows, a life where dreams and hope were stripped away by time, war, or perhaps tragedy. The cop can't help but wonder how someone who had clearly once held a place of honor in society has ended up here, forgotten and forsaken. The innocence of the moment strikes him as the old man, despite his hardships, seems to hold no malice or bitterness toward the world. His eyes may be clouded by blindness, but his heart still shines with an innocence and gentleness that the world has long since lost. His hands, though shaking, still extend out in a peaceful gesture, as if to ask for compassion rather than pity. The cop notices that there are no harsh words or complaints on the old man's lips. His dignity is intact, even in the face of abandonment. It's this innocence that makes the situation even more tragic. The old man isn't asking for anything out of greed or anger. He's simply trying to survive in a world that has forgotten him. There is no bitterness in his heart, no anger at the system that has left him behind. He accepts his fate with grace, but it's the kind of acceptance that makes the cop's heart ache with sympathy. This is a man who has seen it all, yet he hasn't allowed the cruelty of life to rob him of his ability to remain kind, gentle, and pure-hearted. As the cop kneels down to speak with him, the old man smiles faintly, unaware of the tears that are beginning to well up in the officer's eyes. The simplicity of the old man's existence, the fact that he has no home, no family, no one to turn to, hits the cop like a punch to the gut. The old man's innocence is evident in every soft word he speaks, and it makes the cop realize that sometimes the purest souls are those who have been through the most suffering. This man, with all his struggles, has retained an innocence and grace that so many others lose along the way. The cop's thoughts are overwhelmed with feelings of deep sympathy. How could someone like this, someone who had once likely been respected and loved, be reduced to begging in the streets? The cruelty of life weighs heavily on the cop's shoulders as he realizes how easy it is for a person's dignity to be erased by time and circumstance, no matter how great their past may have been. The old man's story is a silent cry for help, not just for himself, but for the many others who have been forgotten by society. As the young cop continues to interact with the old man, something shifts within him. At first, the officer had only seen the blind beggar as a figure of pity, just another casualty of life's harshness, someone whose future had been written by a world that left him behind. But as the conversation continues, something deeper begins to unfold. The old man's words are simple yet profound. He speaks of the past, of the wars he fought in, the honor he once commanded, and the family he had lost along the way. Yet, despite all his hardships, there is no bitterness in his tone. He doesn't speak of revenge or anger at the world for how he was abandoned. Instead, he talks about the value of patience, compassion, and forgiveness. It's as if the years of suffering have somehow purified his soul, leaving him with a clarity of purpose that the cop could never have imagined. The cop, in his youth and relative inexperience, feels the weight of these words. He's always thought of life as something to be conquered, something to be won with strength and force. He's been trained to uphold the law, to bring justice to those who break it, and to fight for what is right. But the old man's quiet wisdom begins to challenge that idea. The moral awakening comes when the old man, with his trembling hands, speaks of the true meaning of strength. Strength is not in how many battles you win, young man, he says softly, but in how many times you rise after you've been knocked down. It's not about how much you take, but how much you give without expecting anything in return. His words don't just resonate with the cop, they echo in his very being. The cop is struck by the realization that true courage doesn't lie in physical strength or authority. It lies in the ability to endure suffering and remain compassionate. He feels embarrassed by his earlier judgments, realizing that he had judged this man based on his outward appearance and his circumstances, a blind, homeless old man begging on the streets. But now, the cop sees the truth. This man has been tested in ways that he, in his uniform, could never understand. The old man's life has been one of sacrifice, loss, and perseverance, and his moral strength is far greater than anything the cop has ever known. As the cop stands up to walk away, he feels a strange sense of humility. His eyes have been opened. He has seen the world through a new lens. He has come to understand that justice isn't always about the law, but about empathy, forgiveness, and the quiet strength that comes from enduring hardship with grace. This awakening is not just about the old man, it's about the cop's own life. He realizes that he has been living with a narrow view of success, focused on rank, power, and external recognition. But now he feels the pull of something deeper. He wants to live a life that mirrors the old man's values, a life of humility, selflessness, and compassion. The old man's silent wisdom sparks a profound change in the cop. It's a change that will affect the way he sees the world, his job, and the people around him. He starts to question his own actions, his own motives, and what it really means to serve and protect. The moral awakening is complete when the cop realizes that the old man's life, though full of pain, holds the kind of truth that cannot be taught in any academy or learned from any textbook. It's a truth that can only be understood when one has lived through the deepest of struggles and come out the other side with a heart still full of love, forgiveness, and hope. The tension between the young cop and the blind old man reaches a breaking point as the cop stands, still processing the old man's profound words. For a moment, it seems like time stands still. The world around them blurs, the sound of passing cars, the chatter of the crowd, all of it fades into the background as the two figures are locked in an emotional space, the air thick with unsaid truths. The old man's hands tremble slightly, the shaking more pronounced as he reaches out to touch the cop's arm. His fingers graze the cop's sleeve with a gentle yet deliberate touch. The cop stiffens, unsure of the old man's intention, but the softness of his grip feels like a call to something deeper, something buried within him. "Son," the old man says, his voice unexpectedly steady, I know you don't understand now, but one day you will. Life isn't about what you have or what you can see. It's about how you use what's left of your heart, your soul. For a split second, the cop feels a lump form in his throat. Tears threaten to well up in his eyes as the weight of the old man's words presses against his chest. The cop, usually composed and stoic, feels exposed, vulnerable, as if the old man has peeled back the layers of his hardened exterior. He can feel the sting of regret creeping in, the memories of his own failures, of moments where he, too, had lost his way. His thoughts rush back to times when he had been impatient with the people he swore to protect, when he had been harsh with the homeless, the broken, people who were invisible to him then. But the old man continues, his voice quiet but clear. Don't live for the applause, son. Live for the quiet moments when you help someone without anyone else knowing. That's where the real meaning of life lies. The cop's hands tighten around the brim of his hat, the weight of it suddenly heavier. He swallows hard, trying to maintain his composure, but something inside of him cracks. In that moment, the cop realizes he's been chasing the wrong things his entire life. He's been consumed by his badge, his uniform, the authority, and the control. But none of that mattered to the old man. What mattered was the simple act of being human, of showing kindness and dignity even when the world turned its back on you. The cop looks down at the old man's face, his eyes blind but his expression wise beyond measure. There's a calmness in the old man's demeanor, a kind of peace that the cop has never known. And it's in that calmness, that simplicity, that the cop finally sees the truth. All the things he's been chasing, the power, the respect, are fleeting. But compassion, kindness, and humility are forever. The old man smiles softly, the corners of his mouth lifting ever so slightly, as if he can sense the cop's realization. His eyes may be blind, but in this moment, it feels as though the cop is seeing him clearly for the first time. The world around them fades away, and all that remains is the connection between them, a bond forged in the rawest form of truth and emotion. The cop's voice cracks when he speaks. I never realized. I'm sorry. His apology is quiet, but it carries with it a weight of genuine sorrow. He kneels down to the old man's level, finally seeing him for the person he truly is. Not just a beggar on the street, but a soul who has lived through trials and come out with a heart still full of light. In that moment, the cop knows that he has changed forever. And as he stands, he places a hand on the old man's shoulder, not out of duty, but out of something much deeper. Respect, gratitude, and a newfound understanding of what truly matters in life. As the young cop begins to process the weight of the old man's wisdom, a new emotion stirs within him, a deep protective instinct that rises up like a wave. The old man, despite his fragile condition, exudes a strength that the cop hadn't fully understood until now. Yet that same vulnerability, the blindness, the frailty, makes the cop's heart ache. He can't shake the thought that someone has taken advantage of this old man, someone who doesn't see his worth, someone who has left him to suffer on the streets. His fists clench at his sides as he looks down at the old man, who remains seated on the cold sidewalk. There is fire in his chest, a sense of urgency to do something, to protect the innocent, to shield those who can no longer protect themselves. For the first time, the cop doesn't just see the old man as a figure in need, he sees him as someone to defend, someone whose dignity and life should not be reduced to an afterthought. The cop stands tall, his body brimming with resolve. He steps closer to the old man, his expression hardening with a determined look. "I'm going to get you off these streets," he says quietly, but with a steely resolve that carries through the air. His voice is firm, steady. The old man's blind eyes might not be able to see it, but the cop's conviction is evident in the way he stands, the way his shoulders square, and the way his jaw tightens with purpose. The cop glances around the bustling street, his mind racing with plans and possibilities. He knows that in the world of law enforcement, there's a system, a way of getting things done, a way of offering aid. But today he realizes the system isn't enough. The old man doesn't need a bureaucratic process. He needs someone who will stand up for him, someone who will see him as a human being, not just another person on the streets. This moment is about more than the job. It's personal now. His determination grows as he gently places a hand on the old man's shoulder, offering reassurance. "I'm not leaving you here," he states, this time with an edge of protectiveness in his voice. He won't allow the old man to be treated as invisible. He won't allow him to continue living in the shadows, begging for scraps. This isn't just about doing his job. It's about doing what is right. He takes out his phone, immediately dialing for a rescue service, calling for assistance, reaching out to those who can help. But as he makes the call, his mind races with thoughts of how he can personally help. The old man's pride, his quiet dignity, makes the cop want to take action, to ensure that the old man's last years will not be filled with this kind of suffering. This isn't a one-time job. This is about providing something permanent, something lasting. But the protective mood becomes even clearer when the cop's attention shifts back to the people around them. He notices the indifferent stares of passers-by, the glances from people who walk by without a second thought. His protective instincts flare up even more. This apathy is unacceptable. It's clear now that the old man has been neglected, ignored by society. The cop's eyes harden as he steps in front of the old man, as if shielding him from the cruel world around him. He won't allow anyone to ignore this man's humanity anymore. "I'll make sure no one ever walks past you again without seeing you," the cop thinks, his mind set with newfound purpose. The old man will not be discarded. The cop's gaze narrows as he looks at the people around them, as if to challenge them to do better. This is more than a simple act of kindness. It is an act of determination to change the narrative, to make sure that no one in this world is left behind. And as the cop stands there with his resolve unwavering, the old man looks up at him, his face softening in an almost grateful smile, though he can't see the cop's face clearly. In that moment, the cop feels a deep sense of satisfaction. This isn't about the accolades, the recognition, or the praise. This is about something far deeper, the commitment to another human being's well-being. Young cop continues to stand. Protectively in front of the old man, a sense of urgency starts to build. The atmosphere becomes thick with tension. The crowd's indifference toward the beggar now seems even more pronounced, and the cop can feel the weight of the injustice all around him. But this is more than just an ordinary moment. Something unsettling is in the air, something that the cop can't quite put his finger on yet. The old man, still blind but sensing the cop's resolve, grips the fabric of the cop's sleeve, a small action that sends a wave of nervous energy through the cop's body. There's something in the way the old man holds on to him, something almost desperate in his touch. The cop feels the old man's trembling fingers, and for a brief moment, his heart skips a beat. He can feel the old man's fear, the weight of years of abandonment, and an overwhelming sense of uncertainty that is etched deep within the old man's soul. The cop's mind races. He needs to help, but he's aware that time is running out. As the sounds of the street continue, he realizes that this isn't just a simple case of helping someone in need. There's something larger at play. The beggar may be a symbol of all that is wrong with society, but now the cop feels something stirring within him, a need to stand against the very apathy that has allowed people like the old man to fall through the cracks. Just as the cop begins to contemplate his next move, a figure steps out of the crowd, a man in a dark suit carrying a briefcase, his eyes scanning the scene. The cop's instincts kick in, and for a brief moment, he wonders if this is just another passerby, oblivious to the situation. But then something shifts. The man in the suit walks straight toward them, his expression unreadable, but there's a glint of something familiar in his eyes. The cop's suspicions grow, and just as he's about to step forward, the man speaks. "She's mine." The words are chilling. The man's tone is firm, but there's something softer in his eyes. The cop looks down at the old man, who, though blind, seems to sense the change in atmosphere. The old man's grip tightens on the cop's sleeve, and for the first time, the cop feels an intense shift in power. The old man is not as helpless as he thought. There's something hidden beneath the surface. The crowd falls silent and the suspense escalates as the cop and the suited man stare each other down. What does this stranger mean by, "she's mine"? The words are confusing, yet they carry a weight of authority. In a heartbeat, the cop is on edge, his protective instincts kicking into overdrive. Who is this man? And what is his connection to the old beggar? The stranger steps forward, eyes locked on the cop. There's a hint of recognition in the man's eyes now, a silent acknowledgement that neither of them is truly out of place in this moment. The cop is still unsure, but there's an undeniable sense that something monumental is unfolding in front of him. "I said," the man repeats, this time with a quieter intensity. "She's mine. I won't leave her here any longer." The cop's pulse quickens and he instinctively steps between the old man and the suited figure. But as the man's words sink in, something in the cop's heart begins to shift. This is no ordinary confrontation. It's not about who has the right to protect the old man. It's about something far deeper. This stranger's words are not a threat. They're a promise. Suspense builds as the crowd watches the exchange, unsure of what will happen next. For a moment, the cop is frozen, unsure whether to trust the stranger or to take matters into his own hands. Then, without warning, the suited man reaches into his pocket, pulls out a sealed letter, and hands it to the cop. The cop takes the letter, his hand slightly trembling, and opens it. Inside is a certificate of inheritance, dated just days before. The name on the document? The old man's name. It's clear now. This isn't just any stranger. It's the old man's long-lost son, a wealthy businessman who had been searching for him for years. In an instant, the tension melts away, replaced by something unexpected. Hope. The stranger, the billionaire, has been searching for his father all along. He's not here to take advantage of the old man. He's here to bring him back home, to give him a life he had lost years ago. The realization dawns on the cop. Everything he believed about this situation is flipped on its head. The old man, it turns out, was never truly abandoned. He has a family, a legacy, and now his son is here to reunite with him. The suspense reaches its peak when the billionaire kneels down to his father, who is still blind but sensing the change. He speaks to the old man with the tenderness of someone who has longed for this moment. And as he does, the old man's face softens, his lips trembling, but with a smile. His heart has finally found its home. The cop, standing to the side, watches this incredible moment unfold. He feels a strange mix of emotions, relief, admiration, and inspiration. In that single moment, all the cop's doubts are erased. He had thought that the old man's life was one of tragedy, a life unloved and abandoned. But in the quiet, resolute actions of this stranger, he sees the power of reconnection, the power of family, and the power of never giving up. The tension that had gripped the air begins to dissolve, replaced by an overwhelming sense of clarity. The crowd, which had once been indifferent, now watches the unfolding scene with a mix of curiosity and wonder. The young cop stands back, his breath steadying. As the realization settles in, this is not a tragic ending but a new beginning. The old man, who had once been a shadow on the streets, is no longer alone. The suited man, the long-lost son, continues to speak gently to the old man, who, despite his blindness, senses the warmth of a familiar voice. The billionaire has not come to pity his father. He has come to redeem him, to offer him a life full of love and dignity that he had long been denied. His father's rough hands, trembling with age and pain, are carefully clasped in his own, a symbolic gesture of connection, of family finally finding its way back to one another. The cop watches silently, his own heart swelling with emotion. It's a strange mix of gratitude, relief, and renewed faith in humanity. He had believed for a moment that this was a story of abandonment, a life spent in the margins. But now he sees that this man, the old beggar, was never truly forgotten. He had a family, a legacy waiting for him, and after years of longing, the day has come when he is finally seen, finally taken care of. The billionaire looks up at the cop, his face softening with a grateful smile. "Thank you for looking out for him," he says, his voice low and sincere. The cop nods, unable to speak for a moment as he tries to process everything he's witnessed. His hand hovers over his heart as he stands tall, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose that goes beyond duty. This was more than just a job. This was about making sure that the most vulnerable among us were never ignored, never left to suffer, in silence. The old man, though his vision is clouded, feels the gentle hand of his son, feels the presence of someone who truly sees him. His eyes glisten with unshed tears as he whispers, "I thought I'd never see you again." The billionaire's voice trembles as he responds, "I never stopped looking, Dad. I never stopped." There is a moment of quiet, the kind of moment that feels eternal, where time slows down. And in that silence, the cop realizes something profound, the power of hope, the power of connection. He had witnessed with his own eyes the transformation of a life that had once seemed beyond repair. This wasn't just about rescuing someone from the streets. It was about offering them a second chance at dignity, at love, at family. As the old man, with his son's support, stands up from the pavement for the first time in what seems like forever, there's a visible change in him. The weight of years seems to lift, if only for a moment. His stooped back straightens, and a faint smile tugs at his lips. He may not be able to see the world, but in that moment, he feels it in his heart. The world is no longer a place of darkness and rejection. It's a place where love can still be found, even after years of wandering. The cop watches as the billionaire and his father slowly make their way down the street, the crowd parting before them, like the world itself is making way for this reunion. He knows that this is more than just a chance encounter. It's a reminder of life's unpredictability, of the miracles that can happen when we least expect them, and of the beauty in finding human connection when we've almost lost hope. The cop stands tall as he watches the pair disappear into the distance, feeling the weight of his own emotional journey. He realizes that his job, his role in this world, is not just to enforce the law. It's to help people find their way back to what they deserve: love, kindness, dignity. He may not have changed the old man's life completely, but he had been a part of the story that gave him a second chance, a new hope. And just as the cop turns to head back to his patrol car, the sky seems a little brighter, the world a little lighter. The uncertainty of the past moments has given way to clarity. Sometimes the most profound acts of kindness don't come from grand gestures. They come from seeing someone who has been overlooked and giving them the chance they deserve. The cop's phone buzzes with a new call. He answers, but his mind is still with the old man and his son. And as he speaks to the voice on the other end, he carries with him the quiet certainty that the world can still be a good place, that redemption and second chances are real. As the cop drives off, the sun begins to set, casting a golden glow over the streets. The journey of the old man has just begun, but the cop knows this is just one small step in the larger journey of life.